Hello, everybody. It's me, Virginia, and this is the Living on the Verge podcast. Today, we are talking Next Gen NYC. We are going to start off on episode 4 and finish off the season with the finale, episode 8. Let's dive right in. Episode 4, and Ariana and Hudson finally secure their $10,000 a month apartment in Soho. It's a lovely apartment, if you ask me, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And Brooks, Seth, and Meredith spend some time in this wild museum. Seth tells Brooks he's like a baby kangaroo when it comes to his mom. And there's a lot more parent participation than I imagined there'd be in this show. Remember when your kids were in school and there were parent participation schools, and then there were those schools which did not encourage parent participation at all? I don't think Meredith would have survived in those schools, nor would have Brooks. They are definitely dependent upon one another, but it's kind of cute if you ask me. Charlie meets with Anwar and Talia. We know Anwar's his dad and Talia's Anwar's girlfriend, and he gets along well with Talia. His dad, however, is kind of a jerk. He can't seem to help himself. He turns everything into a pissing contest with his own kid, you guys. Omar and Georgia. Well, Omar is Georgia's new interest, at least for now. He invested money in Georgia's parties, and he apparently owns a crypto startup company. And we now know that he was allegedly in trouble with the law, but we'll talk more about that later too. Georgia tells us her story and how her dad went off the rails and moved to upstate New York and then died. So as this episode unfolds, we're starting to learn more and more about Georgia's origin story and why she's such an interesting character. At the lunch with Anwar, Talia invited Charlie to bring his friends over for a pool party. So at Anwar's pool party, Danielle is there, who is Talia's daughter, and Charlie starts up right away. He starts sizing her up and flirting, and the kid just can't help himself. But Anwar does everything as a bet and for money and for competition. And the more and more I'm seeing of this guy, the less and less I'm liking him. He wants to have a talk with Charlie right in the middle of this party, by the way, about his future because Charlie's approaching his 30th birthday. And the talk doesn't go well. The girls discuss the fact that Anwar doesn't want Charlie living with him and how sad that is to everyone else. And it's true. I mean, listen, we all want our kids to grow up and fly, but I don't know many people that don't want to live with their kids bad enough that they pay them to move out. I have known some, but not many. Dame, Ava's dad, takes some of the friends golfing. It's the kid and the little boy is adorable. And I think that's his wife, which is Ava's stepmom. And then Seth and Brooks join the group. And it's, to me, Dame just wants his daughter to flourish. And it's kind of beautiful to see a man lifting his daughter up. We rarely see that dynamic on television where it's the man who is kind of the major parent or parental force, for lack of a better word, on a show, and it's a positive and beautiful, uplifting experience. And that's kind of what I'm seeing out of this, and I like it. Then Brooks and Ava talk about how they think Charlie really could use some therapy, but he definitely has an aversion. And Brooks said that he, had gone to therapy when he was a kid. And then Ava said that she had attended therapy too, but she was like 8 years old and all she did was stonewall the therapist. And it got me to thinking, I remember at one point my parents thought that there was something going on that I wasn't telling them. There wasn't. And they insisted I go to a therapist. And I think it was 3 or 4 sessions that I just sat there completely mute. I knew I was messing with the therapist's head. I didn't care. I knew I was pissing my parents off. I didn't care. I also, about, office visit 3, maybe 4, even realized that I was costing them money and I didn't care. I finally won the battle. They told me I didn't have to go back. And so I understand having an aversion to therapy. I definitely went to therapy later on in life and very much got a lot out of it and do not regret it. And I've done it more than once. So I no longer have an aversion, but I understand it. And back on the show, the sky opens up over the golf course and the game is over. Ava joins Charlie for an apology walk, part of his apology tour, and tells her he and Riley are so good now. He really does have some deep issues stemming from childhood expectations and trauma and his dad. He's well on his way to completing the 9 steps. And then he tells Ava he will try to F Ariana. Oh yeah, sounds like he's really grown. Then we see Ariana and Hudson go to visit Rob the designer. She says she wants streetwear, and Rob tells her to elevator pitch him. And it's really funny, the graphics that they use showing her pitch, and she is kind of all over the place and gets a rather rude awakening when Rob tells them that they're just not really ready yet. So they pick up their marbles and I guess continues the quest for the designer that's going to work for them. And we're all at Chloe's 23rd surprise birthday party. And just what every 23-year-old wants at their birthday party, Mama Meredith. Insert eye roll, folks. I don't know, but I don't think I would want my mom at my 23rd birthday party, unless, of course, she was trying to have a moment on television. And Ava shades Ariana's fashion sense. Amira calls her out about it, but Brooks tells Ariana that Ava is talking shit about her fashion sense. And so Ava's pissed that Brooks said anything at all, and then Ariana confronts Ava directly. And that's where that episode ends. So we pick up on episode 5, where we're still at Chloe's party, but why does Gia always feel the need to interject? Ava says, I can usually tell if someone has a fashion line. Okay, first of all, shady ass comment, but I agree with Ava. Gia should stay out of it and let Ava and Ariana hash it out directly. Well, the moment is abruptly ended because Brooks can't handle it, so he comes in singing happy birthday. But somehow I just don't think this is over quite yet. And Georgia wants to never call someone boss again. Oh, Gen Zers. Listen, to be fair, these kids really are entrepreneurial in spirit, and many have had very, very successful businesses from very young age. So I'm not one to hate a business venture. I just think it's funny that the notion of having a boss is what drives their desire for entrepreneurship. That's all. Well, Meredith is back again, and she and Brooks discuss fashions and her quickly approaching Caviar party. That, by the way, Georgia and her partner Danny will be organizing. So Meredith marks Caviar. Have you guys tried it? You can get it online. And I went on to check. They have 3 different options: the Kaluga, the Osetra, and the Sturgeon. And they're all available for around $90 to $100 an ounce. Or you could get a little sampling of all 3 for $150. And of course, they have the big, huge jars, tins that go for $2,000 and $3,000 as well. I've never tried it, and I haven't heard anything bad, good, or indifferent about it. If you have and you want to maybe do a little review on the podcast, hit me up on Instagram and we'll see what we can figure out. Brooks tells us he was fired by his best friend Meredith last week. Well, Brooks is Meredith's creative director for the Meredith Marks brand, and yet he's simultaneously trying to build his own company and a brand, and he confronts her and he says that he was triggered by the way she disposed of him that way, and that it makes him feel like he's failing her. So this cat is just a highly sensitive soul, and that's just the way he operates. he definitely has a sense of loyalty to his mama. In other news, Riley visits Ariana at the new place. I always say Ariana. I think it's Ariana. They're going to be constantly intermingled, so don't come at me. So they go see the new place, or Riley goes to see the new place, and they chat about Ava and all of that was going on. But what struck me is that while they're using the pilot from the stove to light the oven in their $10,000 a month apartment, there's something wrong about that to me. It seems to me you should be able to just turn the oven on if your apartment is running you 10 grand a month. Is it just me? The Slutty Vegan. Will it be Ava's? I don't know. And did you know a New York City liquor license runs about $30,000? Well, all of that is all good and fine, but the shocking news of the moment for me is that Charlie has a fucking master's degree. A master's. It's in hospitality management, and he tells us he can't do much with it. He is nevertheless distracted by any possible business venture that he might be getting offered by Damon Ava, because Georgia still has his speaker, damn it. At dinner, while she explains to Omar that her event venue was shut down due to an eviction notice, and then they had to explain all of that to Meredith, that they have no venue for the upcoming Caviar party. Well, she explains to Omar that there was still hope, so after an exhausting search, she did find another venue. Phew! Meanwhile, Omar awkwardly and abruptly professes his love for Georgia. And she kind of just laughs it off, and we find out that it's because she has trust issues. I guess the family business that her dad had, he imploded it from the inside out and left the entire family for broke. And it just changed her forever. And, Omar says, "Don't worry, honey. I'm not going anywhere." Yikes, guys. That comment doesn't age well. Well, the Caviar event is well underway, but Charlie still needs his speaker, damn it. And then, Louie and Teresa are there. Charlie proposes they all go out to Box, which is a swanky nightclub, after the... Why is Seth Marks obsessed with bisexuality or pansexuality? He brings it up again to Brooks's friend. While Ava makes a late entrance, and she tells us that she apologized for the comments about Ariana's fashion. Amira says Ava has a sense of entitlement. I'm not sure I disagree with Amira. Riley meets Candy and Todd for lunch, and Riley says that she wants to stay in New York. Well, Candy does not really like it all that much, and she rolls her eyes and then kind of holds her feet to the fire. She reminds her that she, only has a little bit of time left, and then Candy asks her what she wants to do, and Riley tells her that she wants to be a DJ, but she wants to stay in New York so that she won't be in her mama's shadow back in Atlanta. And then Candy tells her, "But I thought you were going to be a lawyer." And then Riley says, "Not right now." Well, to break the tension, Ariana joins the group and tells about the outing with Charlie that resulted in a $14,000 bill that Charlie stuck them with. Candy tells Riley, "You're really going to have to figure out your finances, honey." Charlie may be headed for trouble if he cannot figure out life. His friend Dylan says he really understands him, but he wants him to have a purpose. Yeah, Dylan, I think we all want Charlie to have some purpose. Why, oh why, does one need a 3-day notice to return a borrowed speaker? Look, you guys, I'm Team Charlie here. I think if you borrow something, you should give it back promptly. Nobody should have to hound you or chase you or beg you to get your own belongings back. So the girls are all out eating, and they start to talk amongst one another, and Hudson's there and a couple of other people are there too. And we find that Charlie has done the stick people with the bill thing several times to each of them. So apparently this is a pattern, and it's a problem. Let's talk about a quarter life crisis. That's what Brooks is having. He's approaching his 25th birthday, and he said, it's all down here from now, all downhill from here. It's 25, 50, and then 100, and you're dead. Is this a new thing? Are we having a quarter life crisis? Because at 25, I felt like I was in the prime of my life. I was, of course, by then married with children. I was in the process of buying my very first home, but I thought I kind of had life by the balls. I didn't think that there was any crisis to speak of. So just enjoy your time, man. You're in your prime. It's all good, Mr. Brooks. Meanwhile, Brooks and Cade hula hoop with that waist training thing. It's this blue contraption that goes around your waist, and there is a string with like I guess you could consider it like a marble of sorts. It's a bearing that sits in the channel of the belt that you put around your waist, and there's a weight on the end of it. And the idea is to work your waist by kind of hula hooping it. Okay. What happened to Brooks, where it got flung across the room and almost made a hole in the wall, is exactly what happened to me. Because I happen to have one as well, but it is currently sitting in a drawer, lest I kill someone while trying to exercise my abdomen. And yes, folks, Charlie is still in desperate pursuit of his speaker. As we hear about Charlie's growth and maturity being stunted because of his dad's treatment of his trust and his trust fund baby status, he's still obsessed with getting his speaker back. So eventually he gets it back, and then Georgia meets Charlie, and he says he's almost sorry he allowed her in his life, and then a rant ensues. And it ends with him taking off his mic, getting ready to storm off, and telling Georgia, if you were a man, I would punch you in the face. And then big, grown, mature man that Charlie is, he rides off on his skateboard. This quick hit is going a little faster than I thought, mainly because episode 5 seemed more of a filler episode than I thought it was going to be. So let's just move right along to episode 6 and go off to the Jersey Shore for Brooks's Big 2-5. The group discusses how fed up they all are with Charlie. Everybody's got something bad to say about Charlie on the way to the Jersey Shore, but nobody wants to ruin Brooks's birthday. So they all vow to wait until after to address the issues that are going on with Charlie. Meanwhile, Georgia tells us of her latest idea. She is convinced a bowling/club venue is the wave of the future and the great unifier. So she tours the local bowling alley. Why? I have no idea. Meanwhile, we get Kim Zolziak, who comes to see the new place that Ariana and Hudson rented. So wig is back, y'all. Suitcases in tow and all. Ariana quickly tells her that she will get her a hotel room because there's nothing but a beanbag in the room that Kim would be staying in. And she explains in a confessional to us that Hudson and she and Kim are all kind of having issues because Kim is struggling financially and Ariana is helping. And Hudson doesn't like it at all. He is frustrated with the fact that she is still helping even after they took all of her money. And he feels that Kim, is quite capable of earning her own living. So then Ariana tells Kim that she went to lunch with Candy and Riley. And Kim tells us Candy took her to court. And can we talk about Cheese Whiz and Ritz crackers? It was almost a little comforting, endearing. They have a $10,000 a month apartment. Mom drinks $200 bottles of wine. Hudson is dripping in diamonds. Girlfriend has a Cartier bracelet on. And she serves Cheese Whiz and Ritz crackers to her guests. Well, alrighty, I guess to each his own. And then in other news, Ava tells Charlie that she's not going to Brooks's party. And in my opinion, Hickey Charlie has a crush on Ava. I don't know what you guys think, but that's what I think. And listen, I really appreciated the fact that Candy didn't tell Riley what the beef between Candy and Kim was about all those years ago. And instead, both of the moms just want the girls to be friends. And I think that that's really cool because they have become very good friends. Hudson, Kim, and Ariana head to Danico's Italian restaurant, and food looks next level delicious. I checked it out, and it's got a vast menu of offerings, and I would not be mad at eating at that place if I was ever back east. Riley then joins the group, and Ariana and Riley tell Kim about the $14,000 night at the club that Charlie stiffed them with. Kim immediately gets a bad taste in her mouth for Charlie, and Hudson, he's no dummy. He tells everybody that he clocked Charlie from the jump, and who'd have thought I'd agree with Kim when she says, believe people when they show you who they are the first time. Preach, girl, preach. Well, why do I love Brooks? Many reasons, but one of them is because only Brooks would pack an electronic fly swatter for his trip to the Jersey Shore. The entire group arrives at the place on the Jersey Shore, and the majority of the episode really focuses on everybody talking about how much they're pissed off or they hate Charlie. So Brooks's birthday, sadly, is definitely being overshadowed. Then Georgia makes an ignorant comment to Amira about Ozempic, and it's just stupid. Riley catches it. Nobody kind of makes any comment, but it got awkwardly silent for a moment. She was basically food shaming her, and I just thought that that was kind of shitty. But more on that later because it does come back up. Well, listen, Hudson, talk about dripping. This dude was dripping for his trip to the Jersey Shore. And I looked it up. It says his net worth is only $2 or $3 million. But unless a lot of it is fake, which it could be, I know a lot of kids and young adults are doing dupes these days, and they think that those of us who want to buy the authentic product are just wasteful and silly. So I don't know what side of the fence Hudson falls on, but he's definitely dripping in diamonds for the night at the Jersey Shore. And it's really awkward because as people are showing up, everybody kind of just wants Georgia and Charlie to make up. And Charlie thinks he's going to get away with just an apology, and Georgia listens to him and then tells him the relationship is irreparable and she wants nothing to do with the situation. Good for you, Georgia. Charlie's defense mechanism immediately kicks in, and he does that, I don't really care thing that he likes to do. So he blows things off, but he must have been affected because he doesn't immediately join the group for dinner. He instead decides to sit back and roll a joint out by the shore. At the Ocean Casino, which if I remember correctly is the same casino that Kim Zolziak used to go and gamble with Big Daddy's money. Anyway, I digress. At the Ocean Casino, the group starts to talk under their breath and across the table about each other. Mainly Georgia, if I'm being honest. While Ariana doesn't like it, so things start to pop off until Chloe interrupts with Joe Holiday, the magician. And for the second time, we have a member of the Marks family interrupting an awkward moment with a celebration. All of this turmoil and trauma and turbulence is going on at the table, and things are starting to get heated. And my favorite part are the thought bubbles that Brooks is wandering off and thinking. I mean, they crack me up. A leisure line for casino wear and drinks without straws. Oh, Brooks, you're just priceless. And that's how that episode ended. So we'll move right on along into episode 7 because it continues with Brooks's thought bubbles. And while I just love it, everybody is arguing over Charlie, who decided to finally join the group, but he is just sitting back and watching and letting kind of everybody else eat each other alive. Georgia, meanwhile, is at the Ocean Casino in the High Roller Suite. While everybody else went back to the Airbnb, Omar got a room for Georgia, and she was able to spend the night living in luxury. Ariana has regret over how she treated Georgia the night before, and she tells the group that in the morning. And Riley and Georgia chat. Georgia's annoyed when she's telling Riley the story about the night before. She tells Riley that she's kind of annoyed that Omar, Mr. Mute, didn't say anything to defend her. Riley agrees and adds, "It would have been the last night that he was my man." So there you have it. Enter Brooks and the fly zapper. He is hitting flies left and right. There were a bunch of flies there, so I guess it was a good idea to bring it. I don't know. But what struck me the most is that he put his hands all over it at the end. Did you see when he was trying to, I guess it had come apart and he was trying to stick it back together and he had his hands all over it after he had just killed all those flies? Ew. And then he stuck it back in his suitcase. Are we all being punked? Beach or cabana? Riley asks everybody what they're going to do for the day. Riley says she's going to the cabana to hang out with Georgia, and everyone else says they're going to the beach. The scenes of the night before in flashback mode are wild. Everybody was very, very intoxicated, in particular Riley. And editing actually makes Charlie look like not as much of a douchebag. However, Hudson did confront Charlie about the Ariana comment, and Charlie was actually impressed that he was confronted. I think it endeared him to Hudson more. Riley visits Georgia at the suite, and they head out to the very well-appointed cabana, I must say. What was that Riley put into that lovely glass of Veuve? Was it like whipped cream that was supposed to be for the strawberries? Oh, girlfriend, you're showing your age. The girls ordered Miami Vices, which is a layered strawberry daiquiri and piña colada. And why am I today years old when I finally learned this? It's named after an 80s show that I avidly watched. So I don't understand why I never knew that that's what it was. It's just simply a combination of two other drinks. Pretty cute looking for a poolside drink. And when we were in Europe and on the cruise, most of our afternoons were filled with piña coladas. And had I known, I would have ordered a Miami Vice or two. Water sports on the Jersey Shore for the afternoon is what is the order of the day. Well, apparently so are jellyfish and sharks, so water sports on the Jersey Shore are therefore not for me. Georgia in a robe, like a hotel bathrobe, and Riley show up at the shore where the group is hanging out and partying. And as they're walking, Riley slips and her phone flies into the water. So she starts a friendly game of fetch the phone for $1,000. They are clearly very intoxicated at that point. I'm talking about Riley and Georgia. They look pretty loosey-goosey. And so the group all does obstacle courses, and Georgia takes a stab at jumping in the water. They all determine that the phone is gone. Riley's running around like a crazy person, and sadly, she was reduced to having to use her second phone because her first phone, the one for which she offered a rack, was never found. First world problems, guys. Charlie talks to Ava, who says she's not going to come. He tracks her location and finds out she's in Manhattan, not the Hamptons, so she could have come if she wanted to. The gang all meets for Jersey Shore dinner with the private chef. And Ariana and Georgia have a talk and men fences pretty easily, which was kind of refreshing to see. At the lovely Italian dinner, they start off with crispy calamari and heirloom tomato salad that looks delicious. And in my opinion, Chef Dylan seemed to be killing it with that meal. Everything else that came out looked lovely. Then Georgia announces her bowling alley club idea. I am still loving Brooks's thought bubbles at this point. It reminds me of how my brain works sometimes, like in large groups. I've really tried to focus on staying present. That's something I've worked on really hard over the last 2 years or so. And I read a book that has really helped me with focus and being in the moment. And that book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Maybe we'll do a podcast series on it one of these days. It's a highly compelling concept, and if you've never read it, it's a good read. But Amira interrupts Georgia's idea to tell her that she does not appreciate the comments she made about her and the Ozempic. Shai is flabbergasted to hear that that was said to begin with. And then Georgia apologizes, but then quickly just goes back to the discussion about her bowling alley club idea. So it doesn't seem like she really absorbed it, I guess. So the group then comes down on Riley because even though she did not want to say it, she started to say something and then she said, never mind. And then the group kept prodding and prodding. So she finally blurted out that she thought that Georgia's idea was a terrible idea. And then the group comes down on her for her approach. So she does apologize, but she's a little bit butthurt. Like, I can't win for losing with you guys. I feel that there's some sort of subliminal conflict between Gia and Riley. I do. And apparently so does Riley, because she starts crying and ends up leaving the table. And she tells Shai that she's crying because she's angry, not because she's sad. She says that both she and Gia have harsh personalities, and they have a conversation about it. There's a lot of alcohol in their systems. But thankfully, at this point, they decide in their drunken state that they're just going to slip things under the rug and move on. So Riley ends up rejoining the group and says a quick, hey, let's just leave things, alone and move on. And Gia hugs her back and that's over. They bring a really cool cake to Brooks and Riley makes peace with Gina, but it doesn't last for very long. And I have a question. Are you Team Shai or Team Georgia with regards to the privilege conversation? First of all, not a good time to bring up that conversation. They should never take place over alcohol, these sorts of conversations. But Shai nonetheless wanted to have a conversation about how the mere fact that they were in this Airbnb and that they were able to hire this private chef for this lovely dinner, in effect, proves that they do have privilege. And there was a big push and a pull over it, and Shai smartly made his big escape, but the girls kept on going. So out of the blue, Ariana comes down the stairs and sides with Georgia, telling Riley that she's not being cool. Ouch. The look on poor Riley's face, she just felt so devastated. And that's where that episode ended. So all we're left with, you guys, is the finale. 8 episodes, 1 season. Let's get into it. The finale starts with the last day in the Jersey Shore, and Gia is making pancakes. Meanwhile, Riley is pretty devastated, even when she sobers up over the fact that Ariana didn't have her back. And Ariana feels terrible about it. So they all sit down to breakfast with the looming glass of syrup. That was gross. I get it. They're at an Airbnb. There was probably no nicer receptacle, but it kept distracting me seeing that big old glass full of molasses sitting in the middle of the table. And I just kind of kept secretly hoping that someone would accidentally pick it up and take a big gulp. But again, I digress. Riley is still very hurt. And it comes up at the table and you can see it by her body language. And Gia reassures her that her voice does in fact matter. But of all the people, Christian, Gia's boyfriend, is the one who speaks in defense of Riley. She's really, really upset. She's really hurt. But thank Mother Nature, the tension is broken by the attack of the birds. They're sitting outside having their breakfast, and all of a sudden all these seagulls start to kind of attack them, and it just breaks the tension and everybody starts laughing. So thank goodness for that. And then, of course, we have Charlie, who is making sure that he takes one last bong rip before they head back to the city. And he's sitting there with Georgia, who's trying to talk to him, in earnest and tell him that she and Omar are now exclusive. We all know that Charlie dated Lindsay Lohan some time back, which is interesting because she's significantly older than him. But again, fodder for another podcast. Let's move it along. Did anybody else see that nasty, dirty sock that Brooks put on before he put on his very white tennis shoes? Well, guys, the Jersey Shore trip is at long last over. Georgia and Charlie abandoned the group on the way back because Omar sent for a private car. And as soon as they leave, the rest of the group starts talking mad smack, not just about Georgia and her relationship with Charlie, but also about Omar. Amira says that she Googled him and he's an alleged scammer. We now know it's not so alleged. But let's say alleged anyway. Remember I told you we'd talk about it a little bit more? Omar has been accused of operating as an unregistered hedge fund advisor. He also misled investors about the fund's performance and the management, and he was prosecuted. So I don't know how alleged it is, but things went south with Omar pretty quickly. There is some talk that he has since become legit and did open a legitimate crypto company, but I wasn't able to find anything online that proved that. So I won't back that up. And in other news, and almost out of place to me, we get a snippet of Ava's Dolce & Gabbana photo shoot on the side of the road. What? It just seems so misplaced. I don't know. Do you think Brooks could find out if he has COVID by taking a pregnancy test? Well, he's under the weather and he's overwhelmed, so apparently he made it all the way back home without realizing that the COVID test was in fact a pregnancy test. So he's never going to know, at least not today, unless he goes back, if he has COVID. So remember all the talk of a merger between he and Meredith Marks? Well, Brooks is starting to feel torn now. And we find out that Chloe and Seth are not for it, and they're both concerned about Brooks' unnatural attachment issues with his mother. So we see a lot of flashbacks, and I missed it the first time, but when they were at Top Golf, why were they golfing in their socks? Go back and look. Chloe urges Brooks to talk to Meredith about the fact that he does not want to merge the companies at all. And she's pretty insistent. So he gets a little impatient, but he says, okay, I'm going to talk to her. And then Omar and Georgia have a collaboration meeting in front of the big whiteboard and discuss the club, which they are going to call, wait for it, it's brilliant, Club. Omar will be seeking investors, so we'll see how it turns out. Ariana and Riley get together, and Riley says she's very disappointed in herself and how she behaved on this trip. But Ariana tries to tell her that it's all good. My favorite part is how much Ariana likes to hug her and how much it creeps Riley out, because she tells us that she took some test, and on the touching scale, she is just not a toucher at all. So it's quite funny that Ariana's love language is big O hugs. Charlie and Anwar are starting off the morning, and Charlie says he has a lot to do to move into his new apartment. And he is so happy to be back in the luxury building. Oh, Nepo baby problems. Seth and Meredith visit Brooks, who has an investment pitch for them. Brooks does a decent pitch, but Seth interrupts to say he wants to be schmoozed with champagne or something, and so he indulges and he gets some Vita tequila, which was very funny placement. You're welcome, Lisa Barlow. And then they get into the nuts and bolts, and Meredith realizes as the conversation's going on that Brooks and what he's saying is alluding to the fact that he no longer wants the merger, so she just point blank asks. And then he sadly tells her that he's had second thoughts. But she reports that she'll support whatever Brooke decides. And then they both agree to invest. Yay for Brooks. Well, Brooks is seriously concerned about the changing dynamic, though, in their relationship. He's concerned that when they don't work together anymore, it's going to change things. And it's pretty apparent throughout the season that these two are incredibly close. Now, I'm sure that Chloe and Seth could speak much more to whether or not there are attachment issues, but to argue that these two are close is an easy one. I think it's adorable that Brooks is using the fabric swatch to wipe his tears during his conversation with his mom, but they have a heart-to-heart and it goes pretty well, and she reassures him. So that scene ended quite sweetly. But then Omar meets with Charlie at Peachy's, which I looked up and apparently is now closed for rebranding. Omar tells Charlie that the way he spoke to Georgia is not cool. And Charlie apologizes and tells us that he really respects Omar. But did anybody else get thrown off by the rice beer that Omar ordered? It looked like rice water, essentially. And I can't even imagine what it must have tasted like. Has anybody had rice beer? Is that a new thing? There's a really ironic and strange conversation about crypto investors. Considering what we now know, it was wild. Amira is starting bullshit by telling Brooks about why Ava didn't come to his birthday. Why did she have to do that? She really didn't, but I was there for it. It makes for great TV. And then we get to Georgia's event. So she and her partner Danny are busily prepping when Omar walks in with investor Miguel. She's a little bit perturbed that they showed up so early, but Riley and Ariana are getting ready back at the place. And I just noticed that Ariana's hair is just beautiful. That girl's got a gorgeous head of hair. What I wouldn't do. Back at the bowling place, Brooks walks in and asks, I guess they have vending machines and that's the only way they can buy things. And they only take quarters. So Brooks asks the group, so then should we do $100 in quarters? It could just be me, but doesn't anybody realize that there's a change shortage? And I'm sorry, guys, but George's idea, I just don't understand it at all. To me, it's basically just bowling. And I think the gang all agree with me about the underwhelming idea, but most of them are afraid to say anything to her. So Ava shows up with her new man. His name? Hook. What? She walks in as everybody is talking about her, and Ariana gets all tongue-tied and runs off so Brooks and Ava could talk one-on-one. They apologize, and Brooks is quick to forgive, and everybody kisses and makes up, and we all move on. Yay! Must be the season finale. Everything's getting nicely wrapped up. Then Georgia gives her sales pitch at the party to Miguel, who asks a couple of questions, but apparently he likes the concept and he agrees to invest, at least for the cameras. Everybody agrees that the club is not a great idea. And I Googled it and it doesn't exist, so apparently it wasn't a great idea. Hook wants Ava to move in really quickly. Well, she says no. Meanwhile, Gia and her man are discussing moving in together, but Georgia and Omar are the two that actually take the leap and move in. So they head off to this lovely whirlwind vacation. They go to Sri Lanka and Singapore, maybe other places. And then all of a sudden, word gets back that Georgia and Omar broke up. It turns out, according to Georgia, that one night after an argument, he literally cut her off financially and left her stranded in Singapore. He had all of her boxes of stuff delivered to the hallway outside of Charlie's apartment. And so guess what? She now lives with Charlie. All in all, it was quite an eventful year for the next generation of New York City. And word on the street is that there are talks in the works for a Next Gen LA edition. So here are my thoughts on that. If we were to have an LA edition, if this is our pilot or our test for this format, I think it may work depending on the characters. And as for New York City, Georgia is a fun, quirky, and necessary character. I thought that she brought a lot of spice to the show. Omar was a grifter or an attention seeker, and in my opinion, allegedly on the show for all the wrong reasons. Brooks is my MVP of the season for the boys. I just loved him. I think that he is a breath of fresh air. He's a kind human being. He's talented, and he made for good television. And Amira, I liked her gumption. Ariana is my MVP of the girls, for sure. I did not expect to like her. I thought I was going to be Team Riley and she was going to be my girl. And that's not where things landed for me. Hudson, he's mid and seems to be kind of a filler, but I have a feeling that their story will, get more involved as they start to pursue the manufacturing for their clothing line and all of those things. So I'm excited to see what those two have in store. And then Riley, in my opinion, she's got some growing to do for sure. But she wears her heart on her sleeve. And to be fair, she is the youngest of the group. So it's okay. And in my opinion, Ava, although beautiful, talented, all of those things, to me, she's the square peg of this cast. I don't think she belongs with the rest of this group. And even her segments, in my opinion, seemed kind of disjointed. So I'll be interested to see if she comes back. And then we have Chloe, the voice of reason, who sounds a little more like Meredith Marks than I thought she did at the beginning of the season. And Charlie, to me, is the Jax Taylor of this show. And that's not to say that this character isn't needed, but for sure, highly resented. And sorry guys, but just as I anticipated, Gia is my least favorite. And honestly, I feel fine saying that after giving it all season to, come to a conclusion. I did not like her energy. I don't like the way she steps in on everybody. I don't know. It's an apple tree thing for me, and I don't care for her mama or her style or her energy, and maybe that's what it is. But I want to end this with talking about the presence of the parents. I don't know how you guys all feel about that, and I had mixed feelings. On the one hand, I thought it was really cool to see them. On the other hand, I think we saw a little bit more of them than I anticipated and that I would have wanted. I think that a couple of cameos throughout the season would have been nice. I don't necessarily think they needed to be at Chloe's birthday party. I don't think they needed to be at a couple of the other events that they showed up for. And I thought, okay, so it's clever to incorporate like a Meredith Marks branding situation in there. But honestly, I'd rather just focus on the kids. So if this show continues to spawn further spin-offs, I hope that the producers and the editors will keep that in mind, because honestly, I think the joy and the treasure of this show is that it gives, as Corey told me way back at the beginning of the season, early Vanderpump Rules vibes. And that's kind of what we want, more than seeing everybody's parents. Just my 2 cents. Well, that was it. The season's over. There are talks that the ratings were through the roof, so I have no doubt that there'll be another season. But in other news, it's the last day of the free signed book contest for the Sheena Shai My Good Side book that the Living on the Verge podcast is giving out. So if you haven't followed me on Instagram, you need to do that. And if you tag a couple of friends, you'll get extra entries. And if you haven't followed or subscribed on Spotify or Apple or any of the other places that you can get podcasts, go and do that, because that'll get you an entry. And if you want 5 points worth of entries, then give me a review on Apple Podcasts and send me a screenshot of it. And that contest does end tomorrow, so we'll be picking a winner very, very soon. And I told you once before, but I'm going to say it again because I'm very excited for an upcoming guest that I have coming very soon. And I wanted to remind you all that the summer series will continue as we continue to talk about our European vacation, and we'll conclude at the end of summer. So we'll be done with that series by the end of August. And I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, catching up on Next Gen NYC. I will be back really soon with more to chat about. And until then, I hope you have a really, really great day. I'll be here living on the verge.